All right, so before we start looking at arguments for and against ethical egoism, I want to make sure we get clear on a super important distinction between the type of theory that ethical egoism and all the rest of the theories we're going to look at are, and the types of theories we've been looking at, these relativistic theories. So remember when we were looking at a theory like, for example, ethical subjectivism, whether or not moral claims are true or false to the ethical subjectivist depends entirely on whether or not the person making the claims believes them to be true. Okay, so thinking a moral claim to be true to the ethical subjectivist makes it true. Doesn't mean that all the ethical subjectivists are going to get licensed to do whatever they want. They can still be prevented from doing what they want to do. But what it means is the truth and falsity of their moral judgments is determined totally by their belief in the truth of their moral judgments. Now remember that sort of different from that was the emotivist, right? And the emotivist was saying, my moral claims are not really claims at all. They're just expressions that are associated with emotions or feelings that I'm experiencing in reaction to a particular situation. So that when I say I think abortion is immoral, what I'm really just saying is, ooh, yucky, abortion, I don't like that. It's like the equivalent of me stubbing my toe and saying, ouch. And then remember, for the cultural relativist, whether or not a particular action was morally permissible or not, or would be judged morally permissible or not, was dependent on what the group thinks, right? The group's thoughts on particular actions that would be permissible and impermissible are what make them permissible and impermissible. Now, ethical egoism is an objectivist theory. And what that means is it takes something that's outside of ourselves as individuals or as a collective, and it says there exists as an object, this thing of great value that I'm going to use as the foundation for my ethical decision making. And that is my best interest. Okay, so the ethical egoist is working from the assumption that just because you claim something is your best interest doesn't mean it's your best interest. You could be getting it wrong, and you thinking that something is your best interest doesn't make it your best interest. Okay, so the trick for the ethical egoist is you have to figure out what your own best interests are, because your best interests do exist, and it's your obligation to take care of yourself first so that you can take care of others at some point. So you better figure out what those best interests are so you know how to act. So you can see here that with our four qualities of situation, intention, action, and consequences, or four features, the ethical egoist is not going to care about what somebody's intentions are. They're not going to care about what the action is that gets taken. The only thing they care about is what's the situation that I'm in and what do I need to do to get my own best interest further advanced. Okay, so you can see here with our handy little, I got to come up with a name for this sort of moral framework, that what's serving as the foundation, the thing we're standing on when we say this is the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, it's our own individual best interest. That's what matters most to the ethical egoist. Everything they would claim flows from that. So we have to, in our lives, so we have to make sure that we take care of that first. So ethical egoism is a consequentialist ethical theory. We'll look at non-consequentialist theories shortly. But it's a consequentialist theory in that it puts a lot of value, all value actually, on the consequences of our actions. Doesn't matter, certain actions may be morally permissible or in some situations and impermissible in other situations. It just depends on what the outcome of the action is likely to be. If it advances our best interest, it's the right thing to do, says the ethical egoist. So they don't care why we do something, they don't care what we do, we just care that we maximize our best interests.